This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Steve Carson is the founder of Carson Filmworks, a San Diego-based boutique specializing in color grading, editing, and on-site post-production services. While Steve's first career was in banking, starting about 10...
Are you serious? Banking?
I'm serious.
Banking?
Steve,
okay.
Will you just hush up? This is the intro. About 10 years ago, Steve fell in love with filmmaking, and for the last 4 years, he's focused on color grading using DaVinci Resolve as his principal tool of choice for color grading. Hello, Steve. Welcome.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
We are doing great, even if Mike does interrupt the introduction.
I think it's pretty cool that a banker goes to color grading. I think that's really awesome. Thank you. Well, congratulations to you for choosing a good job rather than the other job that
we are going to
messed up the country big time, a few years ago.
Before we get into having you defend your career as a banker, how would you describe Carson Filmworks?
It is a boutique based in San Diego, and we have a lot of production tools, and we do a little of everything from documentaries to shorts, and right now we're working on a feature film. But my personal favorite is color grading, so that's where I do most of my focus.
Well, before we talk about color grading and DaVinci Resolve, I have to ask, what made you give up a secure, highly paid career in banking, mergers, and acquisitions for 25 years, if I might make a point, to leave for the far less well-paid filmmaking world? I mean, defend this choice.
Well, in a word, creativity.
Hey.
We bought and sold about 100 banks in the Southeast, and the only thing creative was you took the sign out front that said First State Bank of whatever little town, and you converted it into a sign that said Bank of America. And, that's not super creative. So
you moved out of the South, came to California, and set up a DaVinci suite. Why DaVinci Resolve?
Well, because it is probably one of the most used in the industry. And I started with Resolve 8. And have progressed through 9, 10, 11, and 12. And it has progressively been a more complete feature set. So what it's really done is displaced virtually all of the third-party applications that I used to use. I will point out, Larry, except Final Cut 10, I still use them.
So you are using Resolve as an editor as well as a color grader?
Michael, even earlier than that, I do on-site DIT work. So we use it to process dailies. We use it to back up cards from the cameras. We use it to develop looks on set. So it starts from there, then it goes to the edit side, and then to the color side, and then finally on the finishing and delivery. So it really does almost everything for us.
So since Blackmagic Design actually bought Resolve a few years ago, are you happy with what they've done with it?
I'm ecstatic with what they've done. It is amazing how they've improved the product. Like I said, I started with version 8, and version 12 is just amazing. Yeah. I just could not wait for it to come out.
Well, tell us more about what version 12 has in it. What are some of the cool new features that you've discovered?
Well, Larry, you'll like this being a Final Cut 10 guy. To me, I'm a little different than a lot of the colorists, but to me, the biggest change is metadata. It now has Final Cut 10 not completely, metadata. So it has smart folders, smart bins, if you will. So when you're bringing in footage, you can group it any way you like, create smart folders so it automatically goes into those folders. And then it carries that metadata over to the color page. So a good example might be you could rename all of the files. Each clip typically have these names that don't make sense to a lot of people, but you can rename it to scene 23, take 1, take 2, take 3, and that creates a displayed name, and that name carries throughout the project. So when you're in the color page, color grading, and the director says, hey, let's take another look at scene 23A. Can we do something with that? Well, I can filter the timeline in Resolve. And, you know, for a feature film, you might have 1,500 clips on your timeline, and they could be chopped up all over. So scene 23 could be in the beginning of the film, the middle, or the end. But what I can do is filter that timeline and show all of the clips from scene 23A that were used, and then I can color grade them all at once, side by side, to make sure they match. So it's unbelievable new tool.
Could you not do that with Resolve 11? Is this new in Resolve 12?
No, you could not to the degree that you can now.
Okay.
For instance, in 11, you could put a flag and put like a blue flag on it. So you would have had to manually go through and blue flag each of the clips. Then you could filter the timeline and say, show me all the blue flags, which coincidentally happened to be, let's say, scene 23A. But it was much more labor intensive to do that. And you only had a certain number of colors that you could work with, whereas with the new metadata, it's unlimited.
Can we use Resolve for editing itself? And if so, do we have to have a high quality video monitor and that control surface to be able to use it? Or can we get in much less expensively without buying all that hardware?
The latter. One of the new features in Resolve 12 is the ability to manage the overhead, if you will, of the system. So you can now work in, remember like Red, how you can go with half size or quarter size or 1/8 size, same concept you can do now in DaVinci. And there's a whole host of tweaks that you can do to your settings to make it easier on the lighter weight computers. And also another really nice change is on the user interface, it now scales perfectly. So if you're working on the new, you know, the 5K iMac, that what you see as the user interface will just shrink down automatically. And I've heard you can even do it on the 12-inch MacBook Air. And so that's pretty amazing that interface.
I've actually seen that, and yes, you can.
That's amazing.
And it's free.
If we exclude,
remember, it's all free.
Well, it isn't all free. You've got the high-end version.
Yeah, there's the high-end version, which you and I don't need. We can use the free version. Do you use the free version or the high-end version?
Well, I happen to own 3 Blackmagic cameras, so I use, and it's not they've changed the nomenclature. The light version is Light No More. It's called DaVinci Resolve 12. What you would have called the fully paid version is now DaVinci Resolve Studio.
Okay.
And so there's the distinction there.
What's one of your favorite new features aside from the metadata handling?
Well, I think to me, there's a couple of new features. Well, let me back up. On the DIT side, you can now sync dual source audio with waveforms. So that's really big. So that's very helpful. As a colorist, what I like, there are a whole host of new features that make us more efficient. And that's what I really like a lot. So there's a new keyer that keys much more dramatically, if you will, and more easily. There's a tracker. DaVinci has always been known to have a really good tracker, but they have a new tracker that's even better and just amazing. It saves a lot of time. So that would be my vote, if you will, for the features on the color side, is just a lot of the efficiencies.
If we're just editing and we don't have the skills to do color correction, can we use Resolve for editing and let somebody else do the color grading, or would we be better off working with other applications?
Well, let's put it this way. If you're editing and you're willing to edit on Resolve, then I'm very happy with you and I would love to work with you because it makes it so much easier to jump back and forth between edit and color. Right now, the edit features are amazing. They have virtually every feature you could ask for. And so, yes, you could definitely edit. You could make a career using DaVinci Resolve 12, the quote free one, and it's a very capable editor.
Do you know Steve is one of the first people to actually, a lot of people are using Premiere because they can go back and forth with After Effects. Well, now we can edit in Resolve and go back and forth with all the color correction tools that everybody is using within Resolve. So why not stay with Resolve? And it's free.
How do the effects packages in Resolve look compared to, say, Premiere or Final Cut or Avid?
I love them. If it's an OFX effect, you can use it. One of the new upgrades in 12 is a whole host of audio effects. So if you're a fan, for example, of RX4, it's available to you. And then the other big change is you can now export directly to Pro Tools. So if you're doing a high-end audio finishing, it's very easy now to send that work out to the audio specialist.
Yeah.
Steve, where can people go on the web to learn more about your work and you and hire you to do the next color grade?
The website is www.carsonfilmworks.com.
That's all one word, carsonfilmworks.com. And Steve Carson's the founder of Carson Filmworks. Steve, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Enjoyed
Steve.
it.
Take care. Bye-bye.